Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes before we get started. Thank you for joining us today. All right, looks like we're at starting time. Can everyone hear me? Are we all set? Kevin, can you confirm if you can hear me?
You sound good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Kevin and I are going to talk a little bit about marketing strategies for social media and then dive a little bit further into public relations. So we've got this covered. You got enough going on. So just sit back, relax, and we're going to take you through this. So my name is Meghan Crawford. I work here at Miranda Creative as a brand manager, and I'm co-presenting today with Kevin Aherne, who is another brand manager here at Miranda Creative. Questions are welcomed. A little note of housekeeping here. Questions are welcome and encouraged via the chat function. While I'm presenting, Kevin's going to monitor that for me, and then while he's presenting, I'll monitor for him. We also have planned Q&A sessions at the end, as well as a few slides in between. So, for those of you who don't know Miranda Creative, here's a brief introduction. We're a full-service brand management firm based out of southeastern Connecticut, right in Norwich, with a few co-working sites throughout the state. We're a right-sized community of about 19 members and growing, with a carefully curated mix of skills designed to meet evolving client needs. Anyone who knows us, we have a flat organizational structure with ideas and experiences levels all are welcomed. And we produce compelling new and traditional medias in a wide range of industries. A few of the brands that we currently work for that you might know include Mystic Seaport, Connecticut Grown. We work with Connecticut Paid Family Medical Leave Benefits, Parkville Market, which is the first food hall over in Hartford. So these are just a sample of some of the work that we do with a couple of the brands that we're working with. On today's agenda, we're going to go through the social media side and talk a little bit about what platforms you should be using for your brand. We're going to talk about strategy development and some few tips there, and then leave you with a social media checklist. From there, Kevin is going to talk about the important elements of press releases, PR, and email, what the best use for either of those are, and then as well as important elements of email newsletters. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to begin with some social media quick facts here. Globally speaking, about 3.6 billion users are on social media every day. So if you're not on social media and you're not using it well, now is the time to learn, especially with the trending, as our markets are trending more online every day. It's important that we are getting in front of those 3.6 billion people. Another quick fact is that Facebook is the most used social network with over 2.7 billion active users as of January 2021. It's one of the dominant platforms there. There's a lot of people you can reach, so Facebook is going to be one of those platforms we talk about today. Also,
let me jump in real quick because I just learned this fact and I think it's interesting. The average the average American picks up their phone 96 times every single day, and more than 50% of those pickups involves checking a social media platform.
Ooh, that's another good tip. We definitely want to make sure we're using social to the best of our capabilities here. Also, to go off that, an average user spends 144 minutes a day on social media networks. So that's 144 minutes that you have the opportunity to put your brand in front of someone new or even a returning customer. All right. One of the questions I get often is, what platform should I be using for my brand? And ideally, you want to use all platforms because that's the most saturation for your brand, your company, or whatever you're putting out there. But realistically, it's hard to manage more than 3 platforms. It can be a challenge if you don't have a dedicated individual who's doing all your social media marketing or social media organic posting. So when you're thinking about what platforms you want to use, Facebook is obviously going to be one of them because it has the most diverse market options for age range and different statuses there. So Facebook is one that you're going to want to use. In terms of deciding between Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, or TikTok, it's really important to first evaluate what your brand is doing, what your goals are, and your target audience. So what I mean by that is, if you're looking to target a market, if your brand is looking to target business owners or business people and people within that market, you're going to want to use LinkedIn because it's more business-to-business related. Whereas if you're a brand who loves to push the boundaries on creativity and are looking to have fun with social media, then TikTok and Instagram are going to be a better space for you. Snapchat isn't a great option if you're doing social media marketing for small businesses, just because it's not, their pricing structure isn't great. TikTok, I highly recommend. It's a new platform out there, but video content is king and it's going to outperform static content. So if you have the ability to use TikTok and you can put together small videos and cross-post across multiple platforms, that content tends to outperform your static content. So I'd recommend checking out TikTok if you can. Twitter is great if you're doing short little sound bites or pieces of information, or you're trying to connect with a lot of media sources. A lot of times on Twitter, media sources will retweet you or they'll pick up information from you and then take that further for you. So that's a great platform for getting noticed. Typically speaking, if you're looking to target a younger demographic, Instagram and TikTok are a great place to go. Their demographics skew a little bit towards the younger side. If you're looking to connect with a older audience, you might go more Instagram and Facebook. Since Facebook and Instagram were kind of the 2 main platforms from the beginning there, they're going to have the largest range of audiences, whereas TikTok is still new and kind of still in that Gen Z moving into the millennial demographic. All right. We're going to talk here a little bit about strategy development. How do I know what I should be posting? What's going to get me noticed? Where should I go from there? As I mentioned before, video content is king. It's going to outperform your static content 9 times out of 10. Each platform has the embedded video option, except for Twitter. And you can also put links in content there to link out to a different video if you have more education-based items that you're promoting. So using TikTok or even using Instagram Reels, IGTVs, you can go live on Facebook. There's a lot of different video options that you can connect with your audience on a couple of different platforms. And that is content that allows you to be a little bit more engaging and a little bit more inviting to whomever you're trying to reach. So that layer of reading body language or being able to really connect with your audience based on mannerisms, that layer of getting to know you is really helpful for building your brand and brand connectivity, which is, for those of you who may not know, is your followers, your brand connectivity, who's looking at your posts, who's liking your posts, who's coming back to your page. Maybe they saw an ad or even just a different post on using a hashtag and they've come back and followed you. So that's brand connectivity. We recommend posting about 3 times per week consistently. That's about the average, usually a Monday, Wednesday, Friday post, but it's super important to look in the back end of each platform to see when your audience is connecting with you. Oftentimes LinkedIn posts do better in the morning, so you might opt to post your LinkedIn in the morning. Instagram tends to have a couple times, usually mornings between 9 and 11, and then usually later around that happy hour time is a good time for Instagram. But make sure you're using a business account and you'll be able to see those types of insights so you're best connecting with your audience at the best time for them. We also want to use relevant hashtags. Hashtags are kind of like invitations. So you have 30 on Instagram. I don't believe the other platforms have a limit like that. I know Instagram is 30. So you have 30 options to reach a different audience. One of the hashtags that I follow is tiny homes, big living. It's a great hashtag, highly recommend it. But anyone who's posting with that hashtag automatically comes up on my Instagram feed or comes up in my Facebook feed. So it's important that you're using them in a couple different ways. There's 3 main categories that I work off of, and that's ones that are related to your brand. So typically your brand name, one that we use is Miranda Creative. Another one is made to create or creative community. Those are all relevant to our brand. We follow that up with industry specific items. So it could be marketing, agency, and then we move into the content related ones. So if it's a post about learning more about Twitter, but it's on Instagram, we're going to hashtag Twitter. We're going to hashtag the type of post it is. Maybe it's education based, or it's more of a personal based one. It just depends. So those are the 3 main categories that we use. So brand, industry, and then content related.
And Meg, just to stop you, and I know we touched on this a little bit, but I think we can go a little bit deeper. Alicia has a question of, does the time of day matter?
So it does. Depending on your audience, people are on their phone consistently throughout the days, but if you're looking at your audience insights and it's saying 5 p.m. is when people are most connected to you, posting at 11 is going to push you lower on their feed, and they may not scroll all the way down. If you think about how, you use Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever's on the top of your feed, you might only get 10 posts down, but your post could be 11.
And also it's important too to think about who your audience is. As far as demographically, for instance, if you're trying to appeal to a working class crowd, the 9-to-5ers, if you will, they're getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and probably checking their phone before they hop in the shower. They're checking it around lunch, and they're probably checking it when they get home. And periodically through the day. If you're appealing to the student crowd, those times will shift a little bit. So just kind of think about who the person is that you're most interested in reaching and what their predicted behaviors would be in using social media.
So time of day is important, and if you're using a business account, all that insight information as well. So moving forward, we also want to make sure that whatever process you're using is sustainable. So if you're a sole proprietor who's running your business and is running your Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, whichever social platform you're currently on, you need to make it sustainable, because committing to something that isn't going to work for you, you're ultimately not going to be connecting with your audience in the way that you want to. So maybe 3 times a week doesn't work for you, or only in the moment posting works. So whatever you choose, make it sustainable, and you can use other applications like third-party publishers. Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Planoly is a free one, or you can use other design elements like Canva. It's super user-friendly and easy to create content that way. So whatever you choose, make sure it's sustainable. And I'll leave you with the last note that you are your brand. So it's okay to let your personality come through. It's okay to connect with your audience in that way, especially through video content. But just be aware that when you open up more of your life to your audience, you open yourself up to further scrutiny that way. So just be aware that we want to get to know you, and your audience is likely going to purchase because they like you and they trust you, but don't let it go too far. Don't put your whole life out there. All right. We're going to move into the social media checklist. This is a good list that we go through when we're posting, or even setting up accounts. So make sure you have that business account set up. Instagram, Facebook, all of them, LinkedIn, they have business accounts or business pages that you can be using. So you don't have to connect your personal page there. Also, make sure your main message stands out. You can have a great big long post, but no one's guaranteed to get to the bottom. So whatever you want your audience to do, make sure you put it at the top, front and center. And again, make sure that call to action is actionable. Each post you want them to follow, you want them to like, look at a product, learn more. So make sure you're telling your audience exactly what you want them to do. And again, try to put that at the top of the message because no one's guaranteed to go to the bottom, but they'll definitely see the top part. Also, it's super important to make sure that all of your images are clear and not blurry or stretched disproportionately. There's a great tool online that gives you all of the different size options, or if you work off an iPhone, most of the time the iPhone camera is already preset in those ways.
And here's something that a lot of people, it's one of those things that people either know it or they don't know it, and it's super easy when you're resizing a photo. If you hold the shift key as you stretch a photo, it'll stretch proportionately, so it'll hold the ratio, so you don't have to worry about stretching it wide and trying to figure out how to recalibrate it to the vertical.
That's another good tip too. We use that a lot here. So using that shift key to make sure you're not disproportionately stretching. You can also use Canva, which I mentioned before. It's a graphic design-based, web-based application there, and it makes importing images easy. And it all comes with pre-sized templates. So if you're looking to do an Instagram post, it'll come with a pre-sized template already made for you. It's a free website. And then it comes with Facebook event covers. It comes with Twitter covers. So that's a great option too if you're worried about stretching your photos there. It's also important to make sure all of your links are active and pointing to the right place where you want them to go, whether it's your website or it's to register for your email newsletter. It's important to make sure those are active and not going to the wrong place or even to the wrong brand. On Instagram, you cannot have active links in static posts, so make sure you set up a link tree. I recently found out a couple weeks ago that you can actually have active links in the IGTV setting. So again, video content outperforms, and now you can have active links in your post on Instagram. So that's really big. We talked about planning out our content in advance. Typically you might have 3 or 4 posts. Maybe it's a meet the team post. Mondays you might do a quote. Tuesdays might be something else. But the content that you know you're going to do consistently, like those quotes every Monday, plan them out in advance. Put them in a third-party publisher like Planoly, and then it's going to post automatically for you. You don't have to think about it. Set it and forget it. That's one of our tips there. And then also have fun and make your plan sustainable. Social media is meant to be fun for the most part, except for LinkedIn. LinkedIn's very business forward. It's meant to be fun, and make sure it's sustainable for you. Don't pick a platform that's going to cause you to not be able to be consistent or is just too much work. Make sure you're picking something that is sustainable. We're going to pause here for questions if anybody has them. It looks like there's none currently in the chat feature, but we'll pause here for a second.
I've got a question. Whose hand is that?
Adobe Stock's hand. All right, so let's move on here for you, Kevin.
Okay, so what Meg just explained was the more fun side of things. The social media is definitely probably more of a fun feature than PR and email marketing, but it is important, and you can actually gain a lot of attention to your organization if you do it wisely. So what's important to say is what the difference is between a press release and an email and how to use both. So on a press release, what you really want to be doing, I always say, if you're thinking about putting a press release out there, the first question you should be asking is, would a newspaper reporter care enough? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of press releases that go out, and I see them all the time. I was a 10-year journalist, that are, you know, really just internal memos that they're trying to put out to the press, and they don't get picked up, and then people waste time and effort to share that news. One of the kind of thresholds I use is, I call it the neighbor or cousin rule, which is, if you told your neighbor or your cousin or somebody who's just kind of tangentially in your life about the news, would they be actively engaged with it? Would they click on an article about it? Would they sit there and be an attentive audience for you? You know, if the answer is yes, you might have a need for a press release. If the answer is no, maybe that's just a social media, something you throw up on social to share some interesting news about your organization. But what is good for a press release, if you're announcing upcoming events, you're holding a festival, you're hosting a webinar, you're announcing major organizational changes. We've got a new executive director. We are moving our headquarters, things like that. And the other one is reacting to a major event that touches your organization, whether it be a tragedy that involves your community, whether it be a positive event that you want to weigh in on, because one thing reporters always are looking for is a genuine reaction to help fill out another story. You know what I mean? If they're writing about something that's getting national attention, they want a local reaction to that national story. An email newsletter is best used for engaging with the people who are already in your pocket, if you will. The people who are subscribing to your events, the people who want to connect with your organization. So, for instance, you want to promote an upcoming event, whether they be meetings, whether they be events, concerts, whatever. Providing access to resources, things that your community is offering, whether it be webinars, if there's any sort of depending on what your organization offers, whether they be health clinics, whether they be support groups, info sessions, whatever. And they're also good to create a sense of belongingness. People, when they connect with an organization, they want to feel like they're on the in, that they're up to date with what's going on, and that they're part of the process. So having a regular newsletter through email is an effective way of just kind of restoking the flame of their interest in your organization. If you've got an email coming twice a month from an organization, you know that they have some real estate in your mind. All right, you can move to the next one, Meg. So let's take a minute on press releases here. So there's some. Having been a journalist for 10 years, I've seen some really good press releases and I've seen some really bad ones. So I'm going to kind of break down some elements that you want in a press release if you're announcing some interesting news. Your headlines and your subject line. So basically the subject line on the email that goes out to the media, and then the headline. They matter. As a reporter, I would get upwards of 75 press releases a day sometimes. And I wasn't opening all of them. So if you've got really interesting news to share, make sure that you're at least tipping it off in the subject line. And as many of you know, when you look at your email, depending on what email server you use, sometimes the subject line gets cut off. So make sure that you're leading with the most compelling information. Getting to the point. Now, think about when you read a news article, especially if it's news and not really opinion. They get to the point. They don't. In magazines, sometimes you'll see they'll float around, or they'll kind of start with some flowery language and kind of set the scene. But when it's announcing news, you want to get straight to the point. The headline should almost be the first sentence of your story. And as media becomes so quick and fast paced, and the next reporter gets a story, they're on to the next one as soon as they hit print. The more you can do their work for them, A, the more accurate their reporting of your event's going to be, and B, the more likely it is to be published. So using language like a newspaper reporter would use. And that's where I'm going to the next point, keeping the language simple. You want to save the expressive adjectives for the quotations. I see a lot of press releases that say, our organization is announcing this awesome new thing. It's the best thing that's ever happened. We're really, it's already too opinion-based to be in the news. So, what a better way to write that would be, ABC Incorporated announced today the release of a new product that may revolutionize the blank industry. And then in the quote from somebody inside the organization, that's your moment to start letting those expressive adjectives fly. We're thrilled. This is going to be a game changer. We can't wait to see, that's where you want to get flowery, and those are good quotes when you get emotion into it. I think there's a question here, and I think it relates to you, Meg.
Yes, I'm just reading that. So beyond, actually, Kevin, let's let you finish your turn, and then we'll take this question.
Yeah, okay, we'll say that for the end. Okay. I just want to acknowledge that we had the question. Okay, so let me continue here. So telling people how to reach you, making sure you put contact information of somebody who's going to either answer their email and answer their phone in a position of no. You're announcing some big news. A reporter is often going to have questions to follow up with. They might want additional quotes. They might want, there might be something that is clear to you, but not to them. They need to be able to reach you and get a prompt response, because like I said, news happen. The 24-hour news cycle is a real thing. And if you can't get the answer you need, you move on to the next thing. And giving them a heads up. Now, this is more related to if you're holding an event or specifically a press conference. If you want to get like the TV cameras there and the big hitter news reporters, send out what I call a media alert, which is basically just a save the date invitation, if you will, the who, what, when, where, why, and let them know, hey, on Wednesday, we're having this event at 11 a.m. We'd love for you to be there. Here's who's speaking. Here's why we think it's newsworthy, and then let it go. And then I recommend following up with them the day of the event to say, hey, did you get that reminder? We're having that event today. We'd love to have you there. And I always throw in kind of a line to make it seem exclusive, especially for the TV cameras. Like, I just want to see if you're there because I want to make sure that we have you set up and ready to go, put access to an outlet if you need it, and make it seem like you're including them in the event and not just inviting them to come if they want to. But like I said, it's important to kind of remind them that the event is coming, because a lot of stories happen and they need to be reminded. So another pro tip here, and I have this in big orange here. A lot of people are hesitant to figure out how they send the press release out, because you might be sending one. You don't want to send 45 different emails out to 45 different press contacts, and you don't want to put them all in one email where if they could start replying all, then it could create a mess, and then you've got reporters from competing organizations on the same thread, and it can be messy. If you put your own name as the to address, so you're sending it from yourself to yourself, and then blind carbon copy all of the contacts you want to reach, they won't know how many people the email went to, and B, they can't reply all. They can only reply directly to you. So that'll save you some time, and it gives it more of a professional feel as a reporter when you get it that way. And all right, we can go to the next one. So the email newsletter. So the really only way this works is if you find a way to collect emails. If you have an event, have a sign-in station. You post something online, ask them to subscribe to your mailing list. Then you can build distribution lists. The more questions you don't want to make them fill out a complete survey when they give you their email address, but the more information you can give them can also help you put those emails into proper lists, so you know what type of information they're going to be interested in receiving. You don't want to spam your email lists. Kind of like social media, you want to have a regular cadence, but if you're sending out an email every day or every 2 days or whatever, you're going to lose your audience, and people are going to unsubscribe, or they're just not going to open it. They're just going to kind of be like, oh, another email, But if you have a regular, cadence, okay, every other Tuesday we're going to send this out. And the only time we're going to change that is if something is really, really breaking or really important. Balance is everything. You want to have the email be graphically or visually stimulating. You don't want an email that's just 1,000-word block of text. You want to keep your content clear and concise, and then link off of it if that person wants to read, learn more about that thing. Give them a snippet, almost like when you're reading a CNN. You get that picture, you get the first 2 paragraphs of the content, and then a read more, and you click it and you go through to it. You want to include some graphics, whether there be statistics, some photos, make it a fun, engaging experience, and link everywhere. Like I mentioned, the goal of sending an email is to get the recipient to, it's almost like you're sending them on a journey. And the email is the treasure map. So you want them to continue their experience. You want them to go to your social media. You want them to check out the article that you're linking to. You want them to enroll in the webinar that you're promoting. So that the goal is to get them off of the email and onto a platform that you control more. And I believe there's one more. Oh no, this is the last one. But okay, so those are the difference between email and PR. And one thing I didn't mention in the press releases is list building. It's really good to identify who your audience is. So what I would recommend is and if you go to almost any news site, newspaper, television, radio, they're going to have a news desk in their contacts. Just start aggregating those and start making a spreadsheet of those, your local TV stations, local radio stations. And then obviously the next level of that is depending on who your organization serves. There are a lot of trade and industry and special interest publications out there. And whereas it might not be front page news for the Boston Globe or the Hartford Courant, there might be a nationally published industry organization or industry publication that would love to hear your news. So kind of curate your list of email contacts for media use. And when you start sending those out, you'll start building relationships with those people. And then they also know that you're a trusted source. It might not be the story that you're sharing that day, but they may the next time they're writing a topic that's related to your organization, they might say, oh, I know somebody over at ABC Incorporated. I'm going to give them a call and see if they have anything that they'd like to add to the story. And then what you're doing is you're getting your name into a larger piece of media that is going to just bring more eyes onto your organization. But all right, that's my nuts and bolts of the PR and email distribution. I think we're ready for some Q&A.
Yeah, so we'll open up the floor to any questions. Alicia, I see your one about private organizations posting beyond just events. So there's a couple different ways you can go about it. I would probably start with education. So that could be stats on what's currently happening or stats that are relevant to the individuals you're reaching or representing. And it can also go beyond that too. You could post tips about how to be more inclusive or educational factors that might be helpful for people who don't know as much about your organization as you'd like them to. There's a few other items you can do as well if you're looking to go more into the video content. You can have community champions, individuals within your community or your brand that represent you really well that you'd like to include on social media. So it could be just an introduction on meeting the team if that's something you're interested in. So it could be meet the team. You could go through who is what and how they're relating to your brand. You could also look into story gathering, anonymous story gathering there. So if you have a personal friend or someone who is really just has a really great story that's relevant to your brand and what your mission is and what you're trying to represent, then it would be important well, maybe not important, but it would be a good place to start there. And then you can collect stories as you go along, and get that kind of personal element there. Outside of that, there's quote based. So if there are other community leaders or people who are going to champion your brand that have really great quotes, write them down, use them as social media content. Everybody loves a good quote background. Everybody loves an inspiring moment. So those are some areas you can go outside of.
And I'll add one thing I like to do is, I call affinity posts, sharing information of other news and information from other organizations that you have some sort of connection to, whether just you're supporting another group's event, you're highlighting what they're doing, and then what you do there is you help build relationships, because now those social media followers, especially if you're tagging them in that, are going to be notified of that post, and you're now engaging with an audience slightly outside of your own audience. And it's also just goodwill within your communities to just be posting positive things about things that aren't directly related to you.
That's another good area. One other I just thought of as well is resources that you're promoting. So if you have fact sheets, spreadsheets, or different information-based resources for your community and your audience, that's another good way to get some content going as well. All right, Kevin, it looks like we have one for you here from Kat about some good resources. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So good resources for creating newsletters and collecting emails for contacts. So there's a few out there. Some of the bigger ones are Mailchimp and Constant Contact. Mailchimp is one I prefer because it's really cost effective. The costs are relative to the size of your audience. So if you're it's not a flat fee to use it, so it's really affordable as you grow, and it's not very cost prohibitive in general. But what's good about Mailchimp is that the ability to build an email with the different elements, with graphics and links and clickable buttons and everything, is super intuitive. It's really just a menu. You drag and drop the elements you want into your email, and you can create some really professional looking emails with very little technical experience. The other part about Mailchimp is great is they have a subscribe function where you can share. It either gives you a code that you can copy and paste onto your website. If you can have either your IT people, or if you're technically savvy enough, include it there. So right on your website, when people enter in their information, it might just sit on the footer of your page or wherever you want to put it. It automatically populates that list. You don't have to do any direct management of it. Or you can also share it through social. You can share it in other newsletters. You can even create a QR code, I believe, in Mailchimp, to where you make a flyer. Somebody can just upload or hit the QR code on their phone, enter their email address, and it populates it. So Mailchimp is probably what I'd recommend for somebody who doesn't, as a newcomer to email marketing, but it also is something that is a very professional tool that I use on a daily basis. So.
I just dropped that link in the chat here. I'm also going to put in Canva and Planoly, which were two of the social media platforms I mentioned previously, if anyone is interested in those. Canva is the graphic design-based web application, and then Planoly is a third-party planner, and it offers, I believe you can do definitely Facebook, Instagram on the free model. And as you move up, if you want to include other social platforms, you move into the paid model. But if you're starting with Facebook and Instagram, that's a great place. And I also would recommend Creator Studio, which I will grab the link for, but that links to Facebook and Instagram. So I will drop these in here.
And one good thing about Canva too is Canva is great for somebody who has a need to do some graphic design, but is not really comfortable with the Adobe suite of Illustrator, Photoshop, etc. So you can do a lot of the same things that you can do in there, but with less technical detail.
I love Canva for that feature too. They have a lot of fun different preset elements, so other designers can go in and populate their stickers or their illustrations elements section. So it's all really high quality, professional looking items, but it's super user friendly. It's really easy to size and adjust, pick your own fonts, and match your brand colors too. Branding kit in there. So if you're working off one color scheme, you can stay within brand on every single post that you have, if that's what you're looking for. But I love Canva as well, and it offers all those preset templates I mentioned earlier.
Awesome. Any other questions?
We agree, Alicia. Canva is a lifesaver.
Well, thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that we were able to give you some information that you can use. I'm going to drop my email in the chat here. If anybody has any follow-up questions on, if they want some advice and tips on press releases, emails, or even social media, I'll be happy to connect with you.
Yeah, and I will drop my email in there as well. And feel free to reach out with any questions. We're always happy to help. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes just to see if there's any other questions, and we invite all of you to stay as well if you'd like. But thank you for joining us today. All right, well, it looks like there's no more questions. Thank you for everyone who's still here. It's a pleasure.